Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in. That's the way it was yesterday with the Major League Baseball playoffs as the Toronto Blue Jays bounced back from the grave. They had been shut down dramatically by the Mariners pitching. They go to a ballpark notorious for unders. Our good friend Troy West, who you've seen on the show here over the last year or so, that we've been doing Bury Your Bookie. Always, every time I call this guy, he says, hey, listen, Defo, I got to hang up here. I'm sending it in on the under on a Mariners home game because you don't see a lot of high-scoring games there. That was anything but the case last night as the Blue Jays bats awaken, including my favorite player, Alejandro Kirk, hitting a home run. He steps up to the plate there. It's kind of interesting because they do that superimposed strike zone, and you would have thought Eddie Geidel was at the plate for Bill Veeck. Well, when you see the strike zone on this guy, he looks like he's about 5'4", built like a fire hydrant. He hits a home run, as did virtually everybody else in the Blue Jays lineup. 13-4. They bounce back and make a series of it just when you thought it was over. All of a sudden, you reignite a spark there and maybe have a rise for hope with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, I know, Mike Jones, you were thinking sweeperoni.
I was.
Possibly in both series.
And let me tell you, bottom of the first, I'm thinking, boy, I'll pat myself on the back after the 2-run homer by Rodriguez, right? So,
much like I was when I had a 1-0 lead with the Brewers a couple of nights ago against the Dodgers. But unfortunately, that went south right away as Yamamoto gave up a first-pitch home run and then gave up 2 hits the rest of the way in a complete game gem that was worthy of any of the Dodger great pitchers. I mean, you're thinking Koufax and Drysdale were the 1-2 guys there after the first 2 games of that series. How are you, Mike Jones? How you feeling? We had a great weekend to leap into here as
great one.
On this Thursday edition of the program. You do have 2 baseball games today before we get into some football. An NFL game tonight that I think is a little bit of a handicapping puzzle, and as are almost all of them when you start factoring in the point spreads, both college and the pros. Let's take a look at the 2 baseball games tonight, just real quickly before we get into some football. And I love this. I mean, you're at that time of the season. It sounds like an old zombie song. It's the time of the season for betting. And so maybe you want to engage in some kind of action on tonight's ball games. Toronto, I think they're in a big jackpot tonight. I mean, I don't know what the price is on this game. It has to be prohibitive because Max Scherzer, we were talking about this yesterday on another show. I mean, you're literally, I mean, you may as well just throw Tommy John himself out there. Max Scherzer was getting torched at the end of the regular season, and he's penciled in to start for the Toronto Blue Jays. In their game against the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners are going to go with Castillo.
Yep, seeing 120, Mariners 120.
Wow, and that seems like something to load up on. What's your feeling about that ball game? I mean, the idea that you have to hand a baseball to Scherzer, yes, at one time, great. What does he have, 3 Cy Youngs? I mean, the guy has been a monster, but the tail end of his career as he's bounced around on various 1-year, $40 million contracts like Justin Verlander, it hasn't productivity to compensation has been so far out of whack that I'm having trouble believing that he's going to give him much tonight. We'll see. I mean, can he do it on memory alone, in your opinion?
Well, maybe so. I mean, I look at it now that 13-run output last night might have gotten that bench arisen. I think the Jimenez, when the 9-hitter comes out, when you're sitting there down and out 2-0, runner on, couple outs, and all of a sudden, bang, your 9-hitter ties the game for you. Kind of gave you that lift, and you can see all that emotion that kept in for the Blue Jays rise up and say, okay, and then they get the 3 spot, go up 5-2, and then I started playing the other way, betting the over and minus runs with the Blue Jays. I felt the blowout was coming, and I got a little lucky, so I got off Seattle basically by what I saw just from you almost like it's that sigh of relief. You're looking at Kirby's face. He's rolling his eyes. He's looking to the sky. Oh, I had this lined up 3-0, up 2-0, and now all of a sudden my mind goes. Kind of how I read this last night as a reaction to what we were seeing. So I actually did make a bet late at 7.5 runs, and I got lucky with a home run, and then they got 2 runs back, and I got 12-2. I felt like I was whistling, ended up winning 13-4. But it was just very interesting that you could play this all the way through the game. And I just felt never lay the gas up on Toronto last night. So to me, what it tells me today is if Max Scherzer is the guy you're talking about, I might be taking a hard look at over 7.5 runs. Blue Jays got their bats back. Castillo's been better at home, but if Scherzer can't hold it, do the Mariners bats bounce back as they have been pretty good throughout the playoffs and say, okay, we're going to get it done here. So I'm looking at more of an over bet, but the line's telling you Toronto might be the side at being that low with Max Scherzer, who's getting his first playoff start.
His tail end of the season was overwhelmingly lame. So, I mean, literally, this guy was getting lit up like the proverbial Christmas tree every time he took the mound, and so inconsistent. I'm struggling to think. I understand maybe you get the bulldog mentality, but that'll only take you so far.
Right?
He's got championship caliber mentality, and he's one of those guys at one time, one of the great aces in the game was Max Scherzer. But those days have long since dissipated, and I would think. See, this is the weird thing about being a degenerate gambler, and you've been doing this your whole life, as have I, and many of the people out there to watch Bury Your Bookie. Look, all signs are pointing to an over in this game, are they not? You're thinking Scherzer gets lit up for 6 runs himself before he exits in the third inning with his head down, and people politely applaud. Great career, Max, but we'll see you next time. Well, why don't you buy a farm or something? Because this game has passed you by, and it's not like I wouldn't be rooting for him, but all signs would indicate that this game's going to have a lot of runs scored. As you mentioned, the Blue Jays bats awakened last night. Guerrero was fantastic, almost had the cycle. I don't know. Do you think he should have tried to leg out a triple there? It seemed like the ball got to the wall fairly quickly. But
I don't think these guys dig out of the box, Jeff, hard enough to think a triple. I think they're out the game at hand. I think they're thinking, I know that was early on, but you kind of.
He was aware that he needed the triple for the cycle, and he puts the ball in what normally would be the kind of spot where the triple certainly was in consideration. But it did get to the wall pretty quickly, and he, like you said, he probably jogged out of the box once he made the contact with the ball. But would you have gone just to see if
I tell you, if I'm up there and knowing me, I'm thinking I need a triple. I'm probably going for sure.
Right? Why wouldn't you?
I think a lot of players did it. I wouldn't be surprised if that was even on his mind. That the modern day baseball
player. Like it was though. I mean, the players seem to be kind of giving him the business that he stopped at 6 games. Looked that way. I don't know. I mean, that was about the only thing left to decide in the game was whether or not Guerrero was going to hit for the cycle. He does go 4 for 4, 2 doubles and a home run. And, of course, the base hit that would have given him the shot at the triple puts one in the right center field gap. So remain hot. He was on fire in the Yankee series, 0 for 7 in the first 2 games of this series. So the fact that he has risen from the grave there in terms of his at-bats it would make you think that there'd be a lot of runs scored. So all 3.0.
The line's telling you, if everything we just talked about.
What's the over-under, 7.5?
7.5. Everything you talked about right now leading into this conversation tells me that you're looking at the Blue Jays in this spot because you're telling me the line should be 150. Just by what you're talking about. Because Scherzer can't pitch.
Yeah,
right. So they're telling you and only giving you 110 price on the Blue Jays that's where the odds makers are saying where this game's going to fall. That's how you, in my opinion, that's how you read a line is saying, okay, I'm going to look at this and say, hey, where's his factors? I look at it. You and I say, what could the number be? And you go to the table and you say, I'm going to lay 150 with Seattle. And you say, wait a minute, I get 120. Why am I that far off? What am I missing? What's happening? And then putting it all together, I lean toward the over when I saw that price saying, I think the bats can rise up from Toronto. I might be very interested in an over 3.5 prop with Toronto on the total runs. They get to Castillo early. You get that 3.5 probably goes over. Last night, the prop I was interested in also was the Mariners over 3.5, even though it never came out. At the end, they get 2 home runs, and it does go over after the first inning. But it's like I'm thinking if I don't like the Mariners a bunch in the game, why not take them over and see if the scoring comes? It's kind of.
I love that you're making amends once the game starts.
Yeah, I mean, well,
you can sit up here.
Hold on, hang on. As soon as I see 2-0, I'm like, oh, this is the way it should be, right? I'm sunk in with the Mariners. The minute I see 2-2, I'm like, wait a minute, the 9-hitter is a home run. Then I see 5-2, and I'm like, this game's over. That's what I thought immediately. The game's over. Now I can get minus 2.5 runs, minus 4.5 runs. I say they're still getting bats. Nobody on, 2 guys on. If they come around and score, you got a bet there that says that guy on first and second is going to come and score, and they do. And so you end up getting off your bet. You're taking a risk and you get middled, but you're also saying I'm not going to pay the price on losing in Seattle. So that's kind of how I played a little bit. And I had the over when I took that Seattle 2.5 bet early, and I took over 8.5 runs and over 9.5 runs. I was whistling at those bets. So that's kind of how the individual battles. Now, granted, I've paid the price where it's gotten south, where I've gotten middled, and things didn't work out a lot. But last night was one of these games. I just saw that no one really thought this was going to be a sweep. I thought after the domination, I thought Miller's start was so good that this could be a sweep. As soon as I saw that tie game, I said, I think this is Toronto's game. And at that point, you can get minus 110, pick them with the guy on first with Toronto in the second inning. So you're still looking at numbers. And then in the third, when they had the first guy on, I'm like, wait, but there's bases loaded here. And now you still can get them at 115 because they got it out. They struck out with 2 outs. So you watch the fluctuation of the line. There was some value if you're playing out live betting last night with Toronto.
All right. You did a great job then recouping from the thought, which I think a lot of people shared, that, wow, Toronto is dead meat in this series. All right, Dodgers with Glass now against Quintana for the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers find themselves in a 2-0 hole also going on the road. Glass now looked good last time out. Dodgers dominating, obviously, with starting pitching. Snell, the one-hitter through 8. Yamamoto, complete game 3-hitter. Where are we at with that one, in your opinion?
I would kind of look at a Glasnow prop to go over the outs. I think it's 16.5 is the number. I would look at that to say that they're gonna go late into this game. I don't think they trust the pen. I mean, do I lay 190? No. After watching last night, sitting there thinking I'm going to get 2 sweeps, now I'm all of a sudden a little on edge. I can get 160, 165 with the Milwaukee, the best record in baseball. Very tough spot there. The layup. But I saw a lot in Glasnow's last start. He's a great pitcher. He's never underachieved this year, been banged up a little bit with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers got it rolling right now, and I'd be surprised again, like I'd say last night. I'd still be surprised if Milwaukee gets a game, but if it's a game, it's going to be this one. So we'll see what happens. But Quintana's the lefty journeyman playoff tested, was with the Mets last year, beat the Brewers in the playoffs. Ohtani's struggling. He's going to get a chance to go at Freeman a little bit. Do the righties get to him? I don't know. Maybe he neutralizes Muncy a little bit. So you got the tough lefty might be something the Dodgers have to dealing with, but they got through it in game 1. Only a 2-1 spot with the lefty that started there, only pitched an inning or 2. Tough spot. The number 190, 200 is really high in this spot. That's the only thing. But if you're betting the Dodgers in the playoffs, you're making a killing. So that's what the odds makers are looking at.
All right. Let's turn our attention to the pigskin. We have some tough games to compute. I was really torn on a lot of these, and there are many different factors to consider. Let's start with tonight's professional game. Pittsburgh Steelers, Cincinnati Bengals. If this is 2012, Mike Jones, we're all excited. Everybody in the country is looking forward to seeing the Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco shootout type of showdown. I mean, this could have been shades of Marino against the New York Jets back in the day. But now we got more like the geezers at Caesars, right, with these two guys. Of the two, you would have to think that Rodgers certainly has displayed more consistency. Flacco, of course, an acquisition now, just 2 games into this will be his second game with the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Flacco can throw the football. He's got Higgins and Jamar Chase. So it's not like he's bereft of weapons that he's throwing to a bunch of rookies or guys that are suspect. I mean, these are some really top-notch guys. Can they stay within 5.5? The Steelers are on the road. They're having to lay 5.5. The Steelers don't win by big margins. But are they good enough to beat the Cincinnati Bengals, who I would bet against in virtually every game, in spite of what we just said about Flacco and his 2 big-time wide receivers? I think their defense sucks, and that's just a general assessment. And I don't know that you have to be a genius to make that observation. That was a big problem for them when they had Joe Burrow coming into the season, where they're going to be good enough defensively. Of course, they had the holdout there, their star defensive player, but he's come back. I don't know if that's enough to stop the bleeding. Would you lay 5.5 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, and the Pittsburgh Steelers? There is one weird stat about this ball game, and that is that Tomlin is 0-6 in road Thursday night games. It's amazing how they played that way. 0-6 in road Thursday night games. So they probably had a few home games. They've been in a lot of these Thursday nighters. Haven't fared well on the road. Tomlin 0-6. Steelers laying 5.5 in this ball game against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. What do you think?
I think this is such an interesting game. I think, last few years, AFC North games, top to bottom, have always been great. I love a division game on a Thursday night where you focus. I got lucky with one last week. Home dog again on a Thursday night, Jeff. I don't know how we can pass on this, but here's the problem. Trey Hendrickson looks like he might not play, and that is the catalyst to their rush. So now Aaron Rodgers might have an extra split second back there. He doesn't have to worry about his backside, which makes him dangerous in this spot. The other important thing is I met a guy who actually coached Joe Flacco in Cleveland. And we were on the field, on a golf course talking about it. And he said the one cool thing about Flacco is he doesn't care. It doesn't get to him. His mindset is he's just out there getting a paycheck. He's accomplished what he won with a Super Bowl. And that throwing 4 interceptions is never going to bother him. And that's where you got to be when you're playing this game today. So as much as crazy as that sounds, it also makes me think he's going to throw the ball into tight windows. He's got most talented wide receiver core he's ever probably had to play with. And you got 3 banged up corners in Slay, Porter, and the guy that required for Miami, slipping my tongue. But like those 3 stud corners are now a little banged up. So to me, I look at this like, why can't the home dog stay close on a night like this? And especially I see some points scored. Now the Steelers also have done something which defensively, which I couldn't believe, is that they're on their 5th game potentially of 5 sacks or more, which they've never done in franchise history. So they're getting a ton of pressure, which makes it look like that could be a problem for Flacco. I'm looking at this game 2 ways. I'm taking the home dog myself, but I see this as the coming out party, national TV, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Should Aaron Rodgers get it done, be effective, and blow, and Pittsburgh looks like they win this game going away, gets to 5-1, gets a big lead in the division. I look at that like saying everybody's going to get off Aaron Rodgers' back and say, I don't care that he's 42. He's getting it done in Pittsburgh, a little better than what they had last year. And now it becomes, does Pittsburgh get a home playoff game? Does Pittsburgh get to the championship game? That's where the talk's going to end up being. So either way, there's going to be some talk after this game. I'm just going to think that Pittsburgh wins a tight game, but I'm going to take the home dog in this case just because it's my nature.
Does seem like a lot of points to lay with the Pittsburgh Steelers going on the road, 5 and a hook. I think they're probably a touchdown better than this team, just because, as you said, compromised Bengals defense that was god awful to begin with. And so, and I think Aaron Rodgers, as much as he's probably at the point of, Flacco, I'm not sure that he doesn't care about how people perceive him as a quarterback. I think he's got a little bit of that, hey, I'm going to show the New York Jets they made a big mistake by passing on me this year, which appears to be the case after watching that abysmal performance by Fields the last time out in the Jets' loss to the Denver Broncos. Very tepid vote to go ahead and lay the 5.5 for me with the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. I just think they do win it by like 6 or 7, maybe even 10, and we'll see what happens. But Flacco, you got to consider that this guy's been in the league longer than Babe Parilli. It's amazing. 18 years in the National Football League, and slinging a rock as if without a care in the world, as you said.
And he can hum it. I mean, this guy had a lot of great things to say about Flacco. Remember, he took Cleveland as the 4th quarterback to the playoffs a couple years ago. So it's not like he can't play. And I thought he looked pretty good considering he only had a few days in the system in the second half. And the danger part of Flacco tonight is he's throwing to some quality guys. He's got targets. He had a couple bad drops too in that Green Bay game that might have made that closer down the stretch. It ended up being a 6-point game against a team that maybe people thought be different. And the familiarity of this rivalry, and now you're at home. I don't know. Does the crowd get behind them a little bit? If they get a little lead, they think, hey, they can save the season. This is the Bengals season's on the line in this game. You got to look at it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. They lose 27-18 last week, to Green Bay as 14-point dogs. So they do cover the spread with Joe Flacco. All right, elsewhere on the NFL slate, a lot of interesting games. Anything in particular? Last week, we were all over the Las Vegas Raiders. Everybody thought you were crazy. In fact, there were 2 attempts to Baker Act you, Mike Jones, and they didn't come from viewers of the show. They came from inside your own household. Yes. As you were touting the Raiders all week long. You happen to be absolutely right. So anything along those lines that you're looking at this week?
I can tell you this. Everything points to a Kansas City blowout, and I'm grabbing 12.5. If I can see 13 possibly by that time. That's a rivalry. The Raiders have covered 3 of the last 4 in that rivalry. We ended up beating them 2 years ago in Kansas City. Everything the least expected. Does Pete Carroll get him going? The thing is, Kansas City's really weak against the run. Do they just stop throwing the ball, put it in Geno Smith's hands, and give it to Ashton Genty and say, we're going to run it 25 times to try to stay in this game and slow it down? It's just whether the Raiders can stop the Chiefs. But again, the division game, getting 12.5. It lost earlier in the year with the Bengals and the Ravens' only win against Cleveland. I just kind of love Jenny. I'm going to keep an eye on that game. And, of course, I'm going to go with my Giants using the New York Jet factor as a play with the Giants getting 7 from Denver. Now, we should have no shot in this game going into altitude. Young quarterback on the road. We're missing wide receivers against a great secondary front. But what I was impressed most with, and if you're going to degrade the Eagles, was the Eagles do have a great offensive and defensive fronts, and the Giants outplayed them on both that way. Philly had Denver down 17-3 the week prior. Denver makes a crazy comeback, goes for 2, gets the lead, kicks a field goal. I kind of see if the Giants can maintain a little control in this game, not turn it over, win the line of scrimmage with all the skill people in favor of Denver, maybe we have an outside shot to keep it close. Now, the Jet factor coming into this is an interesting one. So teams that have played the Jets the following week are 0-5 against the number. Not one team is covered. So Denver falls into that category. Gives me a little hope there that maybe my G-men might keep it close. There's a lot of lift up, a lot of fun there. We've had the 10 days off with the mini bye going into this game. I don't know if we're going to get Darius Slayton back, which would be healthy, but we are reasonably healthy as a team at this point the last few years back when we've struggled. So this could be the turning point. So 2 oddball bets I'm going to throw at you. Why not take the Giants at 30-1 right now to win the NFC East? A win and a Philly loss. We're down a game with a game in hand there. Dallas and Washington play each other. Someone's going to catch a loss, crazy as it sounds. And then again, I also just found all the research on the other pick, which I'll get into as we go to the Chargers and Colts game a little bit. But yeah, I mean, those are the 2 games I'm kind of looking at as big dogs. The other game I picked on the show too, I'm looking at, God, I know they shouldn't have won that game on a basic turnover there with Washington, but Washington's still a pretty good team that been to the championship game. Chicago showed me a lot on Monday night, getting that win on the road. Normally, it's a little let down, short week, you get back, but the Saints have not stayed within 10 points in any game on the road this year. Why doesn't Chicago go in there and cover the 5? It's a big number. I know some wise guys, sharps I've been talking to, like the Saints in this spot just because they've been very competitive games. But those games have been home. They gave Buffalo a little bit. We've seen Buffalo after that lose 2 out of 3 since the Saints loss. And Seattle just put it to them up in Seattle. This is very similar. I kind of lean toward Chicago and a cover for my other big bet this week.
Have you been partying with Aaron Rodgers at some of these psychedelic retreats?
Lot to talk about. Hey, you want information? I got to give you my reasoning.
Giants winning the NFC East. You have all of these, bizarre theories, and the one I guess that we have to get to, because you've been researching this as we've been on the air here on Bury Your Bookie, and that is, and it's not as far fetched as some of these other things that you're mentioning, but and you're relying also on a reverse Jets jinx. So that the Jets, have I don't know how responsible they are for the poor performance of their opponents in the following week after they lose, because they haven't won a game this year. But yet there it is. I mean, there's a trend that nobody's covered the spread after they played the New York Jets the following week. But you do think that Daniel Jones has a shot to be the MVP, which that, in my estimation, as far-fetched as it seems, and certainly would have been an impossible thing to consider before the season started, because you didn't even know if he was going to beat out Anthony Richardson, who throws the ball as if it had a gyroscope in it. But look, with the Colts and the way they're playing, who's more responsible for this turnaround than Daniel Jones?
He's 80-1 going in, or 100-1 going into the Rams game, and they lose that game. Not on his fault. Adonai Mitchell drops a ball going into the end zone, else they'd be 6-0 right now. And he'd be the talk of the town. I just looked it up right now. You can get him at 25-1 to win the MVP. And why not? The one thing that happened with Daniel Jones is 2 things, and they came out as facts.
Giants.
You can facts and look them up, and I followed the kid, and I was the one who supported him a lot more than a lot of everybody else that was in my life and the people online that looked at. But here's the point. Daniel Jones came out in the first episode of Hard Knocks and said the hardest thing he had to do was come back from a knee injury. Last year, he loses his left tackle, which I have been saying to everybody. If you were right about that. Thomas healthy, we'll be fine. If you are a quarterback coming off a tough knee injury, the hardest thing you've had to come back in your life, and you lose the only guy that you got that can protect that back, your mind's going elsewhere. You're running the ball out fast. You're doing things differently. What happens? He gets Quentin Nelson and a really good Colts line there that's in Indianapolis. They have better skill people at the receiver core and running back than the Giants had. Maybe Taylor and Barkley were similar, but in front of a good offensive line, you would have had that. Would Daniel Jones have gone with Barkley to Philly? Would they have lost the Super Bowl? Probably not. He would have done what Jalen Hurts done. Daniel Jones, according to a lot of people, can play. He had some time with Kevin McConnell last year in Minnesota, moves over. Steichen can't get rid of him and wants to use him as a quarterback, ends up working his way in there. And now they're 5-1. They got home field throughout the playoffs. If a team gets home field throughout the playoffs and we're predicted to win 6 or 7 games, and it's because of the quarterback coming in there, how can you not bet him? I mean, it's value right now at 25-1 because if he wins this week and Baker loses, now your Chargers are 1.5 point favorites, so it's a pick 'em game. We know that Detroit should beat Tampa. Who do you think's the front runner for the MVP right now? It had to be him. And no one will talk about him because we can't get out of our head how bad he was with the Giants. That's where there's value. And I think you probably, on a short site, I bet you if you go to DraftKings or go to one of these more open sites where have much more volume, you probably could get 35 or 40-1. I think it's a bet right now. It's fun money. Play with it. I just like what the Colts are doing there. I think they have a real legit shot this week against the Chargers, and we'll see. Again, if you lose, he's 0 for 1 in he's 0 for 1 in that stadium in LA already this year. I don't know what happens. I think the Chargers win the game, but I'm saying that there's value in that right now to take Daniel Jones from the MVP. And another way to get Brian Dable fired. Daniel Jones MVP, and we stink. No matter what he did with Jackson Dart, he probably gets fired.
All right, let's look at a couple of college games.
Sure.
We have a few minutes left. And Friday night, you have the University of Miami. We've been talking a lot about them since they're a hometown team. They're also ranked number 2 in the country. They take on the Louisville Cardinals. These two teams have traded 7-point victories in their last 2 meetings. 13 and a hook, a big line there. I made a few notes on this ball game. I'm looking at 13 and a hook. 25 straight games, the Louisville Cardinals have gone without losing by 2 touchdowns. I don't know how significant that is, but they don't get blown out very often. They traded to 7-point wins in their last 2. The Cardinals have the ACC's top defense. I don't know how great of a distinction that is, but still, their defense is not shabby at all. They average 32 points per game. And then the biggest part of my equation is the Cristobal factor. Is Cristobal capable of orchestrating a blowout when his tendency is always to put a lid on it, even when the Canes appear to be just in a perfect rhythm to go ahead and put 55 on the board? He somehow leaves the other team in the ball game. What do you make of this? I mean, would you lay 13 and a hook with Miami at home against the Louisville Cardinals?
I just might in this spot, Jeff. I think this is the game Miami has to be looking for. Really tough test in the AC, but they got the whole college football world and the football world on a Friday night watching them. So I think if you really want to make a statement to the players and motivate them and say, look, if you think we're number 1, let's go out and put it on this team. And Cristobal will not get off the gas, though. He's one of these guys that's been known to make a mistake or two and think he can still run the ball when he should be taking a knee. So we know that in the past. I look at this game like I think Miami can blow them out. I think they show their talent. If they win at the line of scrimmage, if they are. And I think they make a statement here saying we're here to stay and we're going to be one of the top seeds in the playoff. We're going to go unbeaten throughout the regular season. This is one of these key games. The line is high. I think the price maker's telling you they like Miami in the spot. The great stat of 25 straight. They haven't lost by 2 touchdowns. I love Jeff Brom, the coach there at Louisville. He's done a great job. Great game. Looking forward to watching it. We'll be tuned in. I might lay it. I just think Miami's that good, and I think they're better. And a lot of people that I talk to really think there might be the best talent in together next to maybe Ohio State. But I think people actually think Miami could be better talent-wise than Ohio State. So it's just the Cristobal factor comes into play. You're never wrong when you say that, but I would be shocked if Miami lost this game.
Cristobal kept Notre Dame in the game. He kept Florida State in the game, where we've since seen Florida State fall flat on its face, flatter than a Parisian runway model. Notre Dame lost subsequently and then has come back and beaten a couple of cream puffs. They're in an interesting matchup, especially from a point spread standpoint, as they take on the Trojans of USC. Trojans, the highest scoring team in the nation, averaging 45 points a game. This game really smells and smacks of a backdoor cover, in my estimation. 9.5 you're laying with the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, who appear to have gotten things on track. They're 2 losses you can excuse away. They lost a tight one, as it turned out, to Miami to open the season, and then what was it? Texas A&M. They lost another significant opponent. Would you lay 9.5 with the Fighting Irish in South Bend against the Trojans of USC? I know you'll be eyeballing the Song Girls on the sidelines there if we get a couple of shots, if they do anything good in the game. But with their capabilities of putting 45 points on the board, are they not capable of somehow being down 2 touchdowns and scoring late and getting within the 9 and a hook? I feel that way. I don't know how you do about Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm with you on USC a little bit here. They're playing better. The thing that makes this fascinating to me is Marcus Freeman is the next second coming of coaching. But go back 2 years when this job was open, or 3 years when he got it. It was Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma who was going to the Dallas Cowboys, and everybody loved Lincoln Riley. All of a sudden, it's really quiet. Lincoln Riley can coach. They're a good offensive football team. We know Notre Dame's good on defense. We know that Notre Dame lost their center, so it might be a little bit of continuity on the line, be a little bit of mess up. They look very impressive win for SC last week against Michigan. Michigan team goes out there, 2.5-point favorite. SC wins by 18 points. I kind of think they can keep it close. I think it's still the rivalry's back. I just don't see Lincoln Riley getting completely outcoached in this game. It's going to be a big test for SC to go in there and win, but Notre Dame has faltered a little bit, losing games at home in the last couple of years. Lost to Northern Illinois, already lost to A&M at home. So they're beatable in Notre Dame. This is interesting. Stir up the rivalry. Both teams ranked in the top 25, which hasn't happened in a few years. Could be a good game. I'll take the points.
All right. Any other college games that you're aiming at?
Yeah, I kind of my team.
You're involved with South Carolina somewhere.
Yeah. Well, no, the team I'm really into now is Texas Tech.
Right.
I think not only do they make the tournament, I think they win. This is a really good test because they opened up an 11.5-point favorite, and now Levitt, the quarterback from Arizona State's playing, and it's dropped down to 7.5. He makes this a very dangerous game that I don't know if he was healthy throughout that this line would be over 7. The odds makers are believers. They keep paying out this Texas Tech team. I think that spread might be a little high. So I'll be tuned in to see Arizona State with Levitt come back and play Texas Tech. That'll be a good game. As far as my South Carolina Gamecocks, which I do have a Gamecock logo on today, Mateer comes back. That line's fluctuating to 3.5 and 5.5. Again, this is one of Shane Beamer's old teams. He's familiar with Oklahoma and what they do, tendencies out there. Like the home dog in this spot, but I'm not betting it or anything. But I'm just rooting for South Carolina, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma gets right.
All right. Sounds good, Michael. You have a great weekend.
Jeff,
we'll take in some of these sporting events somewhere. We'll connect at some watering hole or sports bar and get a chance to watch you in action because people, I can tell you this. We could just make a whole show live, watch Mike Jones, and listen to your running commentary during any game that you're witnessing.
35, 40 years of passion and the ups and downs. They come in. But we had a hot week last week, so if we think we're going to get there, we're hoping to keep the momentum going. So we threw out a couple of games today. Go get them.
Let's hope we're on the right side of a couple of these. All right, always a pleasure, my friend. From Mike Jones, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll catch you tomorrow, the professor on college football. We'll dive deeply into that on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.